So, as we saw in the previous videos, our right to protest is yet again being challenged, only this time the quasi-constitutional protections from such authoritarianism that we do have are being attacked via the weaponizing of the partisanship of a left-leaning, supposedly progressive commentariat. However, this hypocrisy of that commentariat, so cleverly weaponized by Badenoch, is not the only hypocrisy at play.
Kemi Badenoch attempted a posture as guardian of decency in response to SODEM playing the Ode to Joy at Starmer's resignation. She insisted on decency, of a respect owed the holder of so exalted an office as Prime Minister. She would have it that forms be observed, that reverence was due. She even wrote to the head of the Metropolitan Police, demanding he intervene even though the matter was settled last year by a judge. I'll mention in passing that the judge in that case dismissed claims that Steve had been intimidatory, but Badenoch, a politician, knows better than the judiciary, a standard attitude for an authoritarian. Kemi Badenoch confronted Sir Keir Starmer in PMQs just 2 days after his resignation announcement, when, with him having made that announcement of departure, and she being so mindful of the respect due his office, a keen Westminster observer might have expected her to adopt a more conciliatory tone in her questioning. Fact checks.
Welfare MPs. Does the Prime Minister feel betrayed by the people he got into Parliament?
Sorry, Prime Minister. Can I just say, think about the language you're using, because when we leave this chamber, don't be surprised when constituents feel they can use the same language against each other. Let us show a little bit more decorum and respect to each other. Prime Minister.
Respect, it would appear, is required only of some people, those people being, of course, the plebs. Her notions of decency and respect were not supposed to impede political attack between the elite, at least not as far as Ms. Badenoch was concerned. It is conceded that her approach was not universally approved of amongst parliamentarians.
Was for the Prime Minister to make the statement he did on Monday. It's an important reminder, as we debate issues robustly in this House, that we are all human, and it's something that everyone should remember.
No, the Badenoch doctrine of decency was quite obviously only to be mobilised merely to quell the plebeian scum. There's a lot of it about, mind. Police are now attempting something of that angle too.
No. I know that there is this big thing about people mustn't be allowed to protest, it's naughty, but we do yet have those rights.
I don't have to respect GB News.
We don't have to respect GB News.
I have to like them. That's the
Don't have to like them.
Absolutely. That's the quote for today. We have to respect GB News.
You will respect GB News?
People doing their job. They're doing it. You have to respect their policies and what they stand for.
They can go and sue Gareth if they want.
No, we don't. What we do
And all
is
the
we must...
while, despite the burgeoning will from the British people, the polls and protests, the question of rejoining the EU is evaded. The so-called will of the British people is, when convenient to a politician's agenda, raised as sacrosanct, and must be respected. But, in reality, the oft-quoted 52% of the referendum result amounts to the will of only 27% of the population. It is also, by now, actually, demonstrably counter to the nation's interests. Oh yes, that's right. Only 27% of the British people voted to leave. But to worry about the implications of so small a cohort of the British people actually wanting Brexit is to ignore what Brexit was actually for. It is to lose sight of the entire point of the project, and that was to destabilize Europe preparatory to invasion. The designs of Vladimir Putin paid well. So, even if the current batch in Parliament missed out on that glorious payday, opening up this can of worms must be avoided. because that would lay bare the mendacity and complicity and treachery that saturates much of our political class. In order to avoid a general understanding in the country of the rank betrayal of Brexit, any and all violence upon our Constitution is to be deemed permissible, as the sterling work of Gina Miller revealed. Even questions regarding the funding of one Nigel Farage are only finally getting close attention after we, at SODEM, have been placing placards and singing songs about it for some time.
The greater costs of red tape and, of course, their energy costs. That's gone up by nearly 9%.
Our political class feel entitled to demand this thing they choose to identify as respect from we plebeian scum. They do this whilst holding us, our interests and concerns, our very well-being, in contempt.
Parliament. Yeah, so there's a set of protesters that are like permanently outside Parliament, so that when anyone goes on TV, they just heckle with quite amusing abuse, to be honest, some of it. And Damien Green came off an interview and met this chap who's dressed in a European flag and told him that in a contested field, you are by far the biggest here. Let's have a look.
Hello, can I ask how you're feeling about the vote yesterday?
No, you can't, because you've just tried to shout over an interview I've done, like you do everyone else.
I didn't. I was singing.
You are the biggest wanker.
He was Deputy Prime Minister and then had a slight...
There was some porn found on a computer that he had access to.
Wanker is a brave choice of insult for a man who had lost his job for keeping porn on his computer. But let's just state for the record that in what was undoubtedly a competitive field, it was not, in fact, Steve Bray who was the biggest wanker. However, the effrontery of Steve's plebeian presumption in making inquiry of his betters has often driven a member of the entitled elite to a, shall we say, less than circumspect response.
Do you really think people are going to believe that nonsense?
Who are you filming now, Dave?
Dave? My name's not Dave.
Don't stick a camera in the face.
That's what the far right called me. You must be reading a lot of their stuff.
I'm really not interested in talking to an odd bloke with a top hat on, chasing
Odd
me down the
bloke
street.
with a top hat. Hang
really.
on a minute. I'm a citizen of this country. We elect people like you.
Talk
So
to
we're
MP.
going to hold you to account.
Why don't you talk to MP and
Why don't I off?
You get on my nerves.
Oh, okay.
Keep filming as well.
This is a very nice MP. Do you know what? Your party is corrupt to the core. The whole system of this parliament is corrupt to the core. And the sooner people like you are removed from office...
Indeed, they passionately resent it if we require that they listen to us or deliver what we want. And if we so presume as to expect that public life ought not to be ridden with corruption, well, that's right out. Who do we think we are? How could a politician make money if they're not getting it from hostile foreign powers? Or just occasionally vested business interests? The thing I would like to remind everyone is that respect that only goes one way is not, in fact, respect at all. It's fear. And we at SODEM are not in the business of fearing poncing patricians on the make. Our political class keep working to impose an authoritarian suppression and, as has always been the case with the authoritarian, they hate nothing more vehemently than satire and derision that accurately presents what they've actually done and who they actually are, and, by implication, who owns them. As John Lennon observed, they prefer protesters to be a bit violent. They can use such violence to justify repression, and it's only the police who'll have to face that violence, not the elite themselves. But if we, in our antics, succeed in raising a smile or invoking the nation's scorn, that's far more dangerous to them than a copper with a bloody nose ever could be.
Who wants that? But madam, would you like your benefit of Brexit? Here, I've got some lovely special offers on benefits of Brexit. we want to. You won't have me anymore. Get your benefits of Brexit here, folks. I've got some lovely special offers on today. I've run out of toilets. I think I've got an offshore tax haven. Get your offshore tax havens here. I've got a peerage as well, so listen here. Get your benefits of Brexit.
And now it's August in Pembrokeshire, from whence I hail. During the making of these videos, Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. A few days before Starmer and Burnham were due to make their respective visits to see the King, Steve received a phone call from the Metropolitan Police. They wanted to know his plans.
The day before the big day, the Met announced that amplifiers would be banned from outside Downing Street, and any protesters corralled across the road from the gates to Downing Street.
Remember what I said about the powers that be imposing law in any way they liked, and its standing at least until it was brought before a court. We'd won the case for our regular protests, much to the chagrin of Kemi Badenoch, but this was in a different place for a different reason, different enough anyway. To preserve our right to protest would require that our case be made before a court again, and there wasn't time. Also, for us to preempt police action would require that we launch a civil action rather than defend a criminal case, which would require money. We didn't have it. Sure, we could just do our thing, but the amps would have been seized as soon as they appeared, and the Met would make their oh-so-very sincere apologies at leisure. That's the game, as we saw with the Republicans. So we, SODEM, played the game differently.
Steve made his protest without amplifiers, but with a big EU flag outside Buckingham Palace, whilst myself, Peter and Jackie waited outside Downing Street. We all gave interviews to both domestic and international press. Starmer made his goodbyes, but there was no point in commenting on that. His time had passed. Then Burnham swept in.
Deine Salbe bin den Lehrer, was der Bruder strengelt ein. Alle Menschen sind Friede, vor dein sanfter Flügelweich.
And I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be. We will make this moment a circuit breaker for Britain, bringing forward the biggest changes in the last 40 years. A new political model and a new economic model. In the 1980s, Britain took some wrong turns. Political power...
And you will have heard there, you mean, the backdrop to a lot of recent political moments has been the sound of amplified sound from outside Downing Street, typically of the Ode to Joy. Well, that was banned, we learnt yesterday, by the police, that there would be no amplified sound allowed. We had someone singing the Ode to Joy, the EU anthem, trying to overcome that.
We've had no Steve Bray today because the Brexit man has been banned from playing his music on his loudspeaker, which I think is an interesting development because at no point during the righties being in this building behind us did anyone ban Steve Bray.
As long as you ignore
putting an unconstitutional law through the legislature, seizing and confiscating amps for months on end, and using judicial stratagems such as getting the hearings repeatedly adjourned, and therefore the judgment that would clarify that the executive's use of the police had been unconstitutional, and therefore unlawful, get that judgment postponed. thereby extending the confiscation of the amps.
I mean, apart from that, the righties have done nothing at all.
However, we did hear from a baritone.
Yes, someone is singing Beethoven's Ninth down there. I'm not quite sure why.
Yes, he is.
What the politics
I like
of that
the spirit
are.
of it. They will not be silenced.
It is very strange that part of the almost constitutional tradition of this moment is that the Prime Minister is drowned out by rhythm and bass.
Well, indeed.
And it's very odd that this time, for the first time, maybe it's having a lawyer in charge, I don't know, they figured out that actually that's against the rules and you can police
Well,
it.
Bray was criticised for blasting out Ode to Joy during Starmer's resignation speech.
SODEM pulls the curtain aside. The powers that be in the UK are posers and mountebanks, incompetents and traitors, small men and women playing at being significant and all the time failing to deliver leadership, security and prosperity, the very essence of what their jobs are supposed to be, the reasons we pay them.
Smoke and mirrors and distraction and scapegoating. That's all they've got. It seems it's all they've had since 2016 at least, and they've got away with absolute failure for 10 years. Doggedly attempting to quell the dissent in the UK, dissent that was simply pointing out how far they were falling short. You see, the problem isn't their incompetence, mendacity, and corruption. No, that's not the problem. The problem is our plebeian presumption in objecting to their incompetence, mendacity, and corruption. Know your place. Tug that forelock. Respect your betters. If you've enjoyed this video, you know the score. Like, comment, share, subscribe to the account, and I'll make many, many more.